Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on the All Souls Trilogy and its spin-off book, Time's Convert by Deborah Harkness. So, before I get into my thoughts and feelings on the All Souls trilogy and its spin-off book, Time's Convert by Deborah Harkness, I do not plan on having any type of spoilers in this video. I'm going to try to keep everything as vague as possible, just really give you my overall just thoughts and feelings, opinions about this universe, this world by Deborah Harkness. Yeah, if you want to know some of my full-length, maybe more detailed feelings, I definitely recommend going and checking out my Goodreads reviews for all these books, where I go into them individually and kind of get a little bit more specific about certain things. But yeah, for the purposes of this video and to make it just quick and to the point, I'm going to be just very general about everything and just kind of mash everything together. So, as part of the All Souls trilogy, the first book in the series is called A Discovery of Witches, and yeah, that is what the TV show is called. It takes its title from this first book. And then book 2 is called Shadow of Night. And the final book in the trilogy is called The Book of Life. And then the spin-off book, which takes place about maybe a year or two after the events of the final book, is called Time's Convert. So, what do you need to know about the All Souls trilogy? What is this entire trilogy kind of all boiled down to, essentially? So, in this very first book, we are introduced to a historian, if you will. She's a historian, she's a young woman. Her name is Diana Bishop, and she's also a witch. She is a witch. In this world, there are witches, vampires, demons. It's a supernatural world. So you can almost kind of call these books almost like paranormal romance to some degree. That's not all they are about. There's definitely a lot more than just romance going on in these books. But yeah, these are like supernatural type books, characters, if you will, where magical, mysterious things are going on. So yeah, our main character, Diana Bishop, who is a witch, she is doing some research at a library, and she stumbles across this very mysterious manuscript called Ashmole 782. And as soon as she touches this book, some strange occurrences happen, and she realizes that there's something about this mysterious manuscript that is integral and very important. And it's not too long after she touches this book and the book kind of disappears back into just the mysterious beyond or whatever. It's soon after this that she stumbles across a vampire named Matthew Claremont. And Matthew, he is centuries upon centuries old. He has seen and done a lot of things in his time as a vampire. And the thing about Matthew, he is also a geneticist and whatnot. He is very smart and intelligent. And he realizes that Diana, she has touched something that is powerful, and that she has touched the mysterious Book of Life. This Book of Life, Matthew believes, holds the key and the origins to the world of the supernatural, pretty much. And it's not just Matthew's world of the vampires that are looking for this mysterious book. The witches are also looking for this book. The demons are looking for this book. And yeah, vampires, witches, demons, they all have their own agenda and their own idea of what this mysterious Book of Life is and what it holds. Because what we quickly find out is that the world of the supernatural, something is kind of decaying and crumbling. Vampires are having trouble making new vampires. They'll bite someone, try to feed them their blood, but then the person, instead of turning into a vampire, they just die. Why? So there's trouble with that with the vampires. And then with the witches, there's fewer and fewer witches being born, and people having issues like just with their magic and whatnot. Why? And then the same with the demons. The demons are kind of being driven to some sort of madness, if you will. There's kind of something going on with the demons that's unexplainable as well. Why? So yeah, vampires, witches, demons, they all feel like this mysterious book of life holds the answers. And it's really this whole battle between who gets this book first. The vampires want it for their own personal agenda, the witches want the same, and the demons want the same as well. So it's this combination of Diana and Matthew, who initially, they don't really initially get along, but there is some sort of attraction that starts building up between them. And it's actually, in their world, it's very taboo for witches and vampires to even have any sort of romance, and whatnot. These three species are meant to be separated. And what's so fascinating about this world that Deborah Harkness has created, it's a sort of commentary, weirdly enough, about racism and prejudice and whatnot. The vampires are considered the elite in this universe. They are at the very top of the food chain. They are the ones who make all of the laws and enforce the rules. They pretty much are the final say in how this world of the supernatural is kind of run and whatnot. And then next is kind of the witches, and then the demons are like seen as just trash almost. The demons are just kind of pushed to the side and really not given any sort of voice or say in anything. So there's definitely this sense of hierarchy in the world of the supernatural, and kind of this degree of racism and prejudice almost. So what Deborah Harkness is doing is she's kind of having that bit of commentary there that you can parallel to like the real world and whatnot outside of the world of the supernatural. So it's this joining of Diana and Matthew, the two of them breaking the taboo and being like, hey, we're going to be with one another. We love each other. Because obviously the two of them, as any good book does, if you're bickering, arguing, you're eventually going to fall in love. Ain't that how all romance books go? So the two of them do eventually gradually fall in love over the course of this first book, and they really feel a great weight and responsibility through their coming together, like, hey, we have made it work. We need to get our various different species, we need to get it to work between all of us. So Matthew and Diana, over the course of this entire trilogy, they make it their primary mission to hunt down the mysterious book of life. And that comes with a lot of risks and losses along the way. But over the course of the trilogy, just furthering, tightening their relationship and their love for one another, and really what truly matters to them, which is their love for one another, their love for their friends and family, and yet just their weight and responsibility that they feel they need to try and change the world of the supernatural for the better. Instead of keeping the species separated, they all need to come together, because if they don't come together, they're going to die slowly and drift further and further away, and their world is never going to get better. So yeah, they need to find this book of life, keep it in the hands that it needs to be in, don't let it fall to enemy hands, and yeah, hopefully for the better, things can change and the species can come together rather than be separated. So yeah, how do I feel about the trilogy as a whole? I really thoroughly loved this trilogy. Now, the one downside for me, before I got into the book series, I have already seen all 3 seasons of the TV show, and I just wildly love the TV show. So I went into this trilogy knowing exactly what was coming, what some of the twists and turns were going to be. Nothing was ever going to really truly shock or surprise me because I knew what was coming. And I think, unfortunately, I kind of left this trilogy, even though I did still really highly enjoy this trilogy, I think I left the trilogy still kind of preferring the TV show. And I know that's not a popular opinion to have in the book community, because most people feel that books are always better than any given adaptation. But for me, sometimes I kind of end up having that different opinion, because a lot of times I tend to watch an adaptation first before a book. I don't know how that happens, but it usually happens to me. And a lot of times I end up liking an adaptation more. So I left this trilogy, even though I still liked it, as I said, I still kind of prefer the TV show, because I feel like the TV show condensed everything in a nice manner that was easy to digest and consume, rather than a lot of stuff just kind of being all over the place and lingering out for lengthy periods of time. Everything was condensed in a digestible manner, I think, that really helped push the story along episode by episode. Whereas the books, yeah, they're very, very lengthy books. These are gigantic books, you guys. Yeah, the stories are a lot more lengthy, the plots are a lot more lengthy, and sometimes it can take a while to kind of even get to the point of any particular plot. So sometimes the books felt like they dragged a little bit for me, and I don't, like I said, I don't know if that's because I did consume the TV series first, and it's like I know what was coming, so it's like I wanted the books to like hurry up and get to the point, because it's like I already know. You know, so yeah, that might just kind of be me. But still, kind of moving away from the TV show, because I don't want to talk about the TV show, I want to talk about the books. I still really highly enjoyed this trilogy. I had a lot of fun. I really loved Deborah Harkness's world building. I loved her portrayal of vampires and witches and demons, because, I mean, there have been so many books and movies and television shows over the years, just a never-ending flow of media that has vampires, witches, and demons in it. And I think over time, it's hard to make something unique and different. But I think Deborah Harkness, I think she managed to make her supernatural world very unique in her own way. I don't think any species ever felt like stereotypically like a vampire, stereotypically like a witch or a demon or anything, you know? I think she managed to make this world uniquely her own, and these characters uniquely her own, and I think that made them interesting and whatnot. So I really liked her world building, I appreciated it, and I also just really liked Deborah Harkness's research and whatnot. There's a lot of science, you guys, because I think you may be going into this trilogy thinking, oh, this is going to be kind of like paranormal romance and blah de blah, you know. These books are way, way more than just romance. There's a lot of talk about science, a lot of talk about history, and a lot of that stuff is very, very lengthy and very in-depth, and you'll spend just pages and chapters really getting into the nitty-gritty of like historical stuff or scientific stuff. Because as I was explaining, because these characters are looking for the Book of Life, and they think that this book holds the key and answers to why vampires are struggling to make new vampires, why witches are struggling with their powers, and why more witches aren't being born, and why are demons being driven to madness. And there's a lot of like science. There's a lot of science and genetics, because like I mentioned, Matthew is a geneticist, and there's lengthy chapters and whatnot where they're looking over papers of DNA and genetics, and you know, why strands of this DNA and why strands of this DNA or whatever. It's all very complex, you guys. I never sometimes understood it completely, but like how do all these little like threads of DNA and the DNA of your ancestors, you know, how is that maybe contributing to certain things? You know, why our species might be struggling in the ways that they are. So there's a lot of science alongside the romance that's going on. And then the second book in the series, Shadow of Night, which is actually my favorite in the trilogy, you guys. This is where we get into a lot of the historical stuff, because Matthew and Diana, just through the events of book 2, they realize, okay, I think we need to time travel. And they choose to go back to Elizabethan England because they think that is kind of the point in time where they might be able to get some clues about where the Book of Life is. And if they can figure out where the Book of Life is in the Elizabethan era, that will somehow help them kind of break down and determine where the Book of Life might currently be in their present day and whatnot, that they might be able to trace it. So, yeah, this book is all Elizabethan England. I freaking loved it. I am a sucker for all things Elizabethan England. And kind of how the first book is, and definitely the third book, you know, the first and third book very heavily focus on like the science of the supernatural world. This book definitely gets into a lot of history and whatnot, since they are in Elizabethan England. And I loved Deborah Harkness's historical research, kind of the rawness, the grittiness of Elizabethan England. And yeah, Matthew, who is a vampire, he is already familiar with Elizabethan England. He's already lived it. He knows the customs, the traditions. He knows how to fit into that world. But yeah, poor Diana, being a modern day woman, and yeah, her modern sense of feminism and whatnot, she does really struggle in Elizabethan England initially, and she really has to kind of find her footing and fit in and adapt and whatnot. And yeah, because they can't let it be known that they're from the future, obviously. So I loved the second book. It's definitely my favorite in the entire trilogy, and it really just kind of sets a lot of things into motion and whatnot. And then yeah, just kind of quickly moving into the final book, yeah, the hunt for the Book of Life is still on. The forces of good, the forces of evil, everybody is just kind of quickly colliding, and it's a urgent race who's going to get their hands on the Book of Life for the most part. And yeah, once again, I think with all the books in the trilogy, I really appreciate Deborah Harkness's sense of urgency with the plot and whatnot. The characters are on a timeline, essentially a deadline. There's urgency, there's risk, there's losses. So yeah, this final book in the trilogy is definitely a nice fitting conclusion to the series and whatnot. And I think very satisfying as well. But yeah, still a lot of like lingering threads. Not everything in this final book gets absolutely 100% resolved. There's definitely some threads with the plot, threads with just secondary characters. And yeah, I'll kind of get into that with the spin-off book and whatnot. But yeah, for the most part, I really loved this trilogy. It was a great time, very well written, I think, very well researched. I love the world building. I really genuinely love all the characters, you know, the main characters, the supporting cast of characters. I think the big thing about this trilogy that I left being just very frustrated and disappointed with, like I said, because I watched the TV series first. The TV series, because it's a TV series, you get episode after episode that your main character, your villain, your main villains, your villains can appear in every single episode, and you can see the point of view of the villains and what their agendas are and what their motivations are. But in the books, for the most part, except for some minor occasions, in the books, you're kind of mostly primarily in the point of view, the first person point of view of Diana Bishop. So in a book like that, when you're just strictly in that first person point of view, you don't really know what's going on with other characters, especially your villains. So the big frustrating thing for me with this trilogy as a whole, I definitely was very frustrated with the lack of villains, and I never really found them that threatening, to be quite honest. I felt like we were being told that these are your villains, but we weren't really being shown too terribly much like why they're the villains. You know, if that makes sense. Because I honestly feel like the TV show did a much better job with the villains and really made me terrified of the villains, that they were true threats and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's really my biggest complaint with the trilogy, is definitely just the villains as a whole, because I am a lover of like a really good villain and whatnot. A villain can kind of make or break something for me. So yeah, that was really kind of my only issue and complaint. But yeah, the trilogy as a whole, I think very, very well done for the most part. And yeah, this universe is not completely over. So yeah, we're going to move into the spin-off series very quickly, where I'm going to definitely do my best not to spoil anything there. So yeah, this spin-off book is called Time's Convert, and we do get some chapters in here that focus on Diana and Matthew, you know, the aftermath of what has gone down in the trilogy and whatnot. But this spin-off book is primarily focused on some characters named Marcus and Phoebe, and their romance, because, like I said, since the main trilogy is primarily in Diana's point of view, you like I said, you don't really know what's going on with other characters. So this spin-off book is a great way to kind of conclude some lingering threads about secondary characters, and yes, specifically the characters of Marcus and Phoebe and their relationship and romance, and where that continues after the events of what happened in the trilogy. I did really like this spin-off book, it helped answer some of those lingering threads from the trilogy and resolve some of those plot issues or character things. I felt a lot more satisfied about the conclusion of, like, Marcus and Phoebe, for instance. It was nice to go back to them, spend a lengthy amount of time with them, you know, kind of away from Matthew and Diana's story and whatnot. And yeah, apparently Deborah Harkness, she's not done with this universe. She's planning on doing a bunch of other spin-off books with various other characters, and I am excited about that, because yeah, this is just on Marcus and Phoebe. There's still plenty of other characters that I still have lingering thoughts and questions about and whatnot. So I think Deborah Harkness, yes, she's going to be slowly kind of rolling out spin-off books probably over the next decade or so, and I'm excited about that. I think one of my favorite secondary characters is a character named Gallowglass. He's a vampire. He's part of, like, Matthew's family and whatnot. I loved the character of Gallowglass, and yeah, the trilogy definitely left me hanging with his character. I needed more of him, so I think Gallowglass, he is a fan favorite character, and he is kind of one of those top characters that people are really crossing their fingers Deborah Harkness writes a spin-off book for him. So I'm hoping that's one of the next ones coming, because I really need one for his character specifically, because I was definitely left hanging with him. So yeah, how would I recommend the All Souls universe? If you like books that deal with, like, vampires and witches and demons and whatnot, you know, the world of the supernatural, you'll probably definitely really like something like this. Yeah, if you like romance in your books, if you like some science and some history, I think these books, they're kind of just a nice blend of a lot of stuff. I don't think it's ever really dull or boring, to be quite honest. There's always kind of something going on, something always going down, and moving the plot forward, moving the characters forward. But yeah, I mean, that's how I would kind of recommend this series of books. Yeah, if you really liked the TV show, I suspect you'll really like the books as well. Yeah, if you're someone who didn't really like the show, you're probably not going to like the books either. I don't think there's anything really about the books that's going to change your mind, you know? But yeah, if you like all that good supernatural stuff, this would probably be a great time for you. And yeah, I definitely really highly enjoyed them and definitely would recommend them. So you guys, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on the All Souls universe, if you will, by Deborah Harkness. In the comments below, have you guys read these books? Have you seen the TV show as well? Just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.